Hi, guys. Can someone give me a thumbs up just to let me know that you can hear me? Thank you very much, Monica. Appreciate it. Thank you for joining office hours. I appreciate it. Hopefully it'll have some value to you. I apologize for not being available yesterday at the scheduled time. We'll go back to Saturdays, starting again next week. I'll announce it. I'll put a series of office hours up so that we start getting a little bit of a flow here. Hopefully everything working out as we hope. So I'm just going to start right into my my sort of spiel that covers what I want to cover, and then I will open the floor for questions. If you have questions while I'm talking, feel free to jump in. I am just trying to locate my chat window, which seems to have hidden away. There we go. So I'll keep an eye on the chat as well if you want to fire questions off either to the group where everyone can see them or to me privately, whichever way you want to do it. I will get around to answering all questions before we end this office hours. I'm glad you joined us, Jade. I'm glad I saw your email just before we went live there, so welcome. I'll start right at the beginning, and that is there are still people that have not done the 2 mandatory submissions in order to see quizzes. That is the course requirements quiz. I added another 5 attempts as of Thursday morning to it. So if you had maxed out your attempts before the last week, you now have 5 more attempts. The idea, of course, is for you to do research and to get the right answers and not randomly guess. The reason I am so stringent on the number of attempts is I used to have in previous classes, I had people taking 45 attempts at answering the questions. Instead of thinking, instead of researching, instead of being university students, they decided to go the route of monkeys and just randomly answer every combination they could think of. And that's a little disturbing to see in a university student. So in any case, you've got 5 more attempts. If you've been unsuccessful up until now, then I suggest you work on those, get them done early, because I have to manually approve late submissions. So particularly as that pertains to the academic integrity, there are people that haven't handed in academic integrity. I am not sure what's happening this year, but it would be really helpful if students would read the instructions and follow the instructions instead of randomly submitting me screenshots of things that have nothing to do with academic integrity. That that's hard on the patients. So those of you that have done it, great, fantastic. But there's a high percentage of people that send me pictures, screenshots of different things that have nothing to do with academic integrity. So that's not going to get the job done. The other big concern for me is there is fully 1/5 of the class, so almost 30 students that have not even gained a mark yet. So they haven't submitted a quiz, they haven't done a practice, they haven't done anything like that. That's, I mean, if you got to take a module off, the first module is a good one because we only had, I think, 6% of the final in that, 2% for each of the chapter quizzes, and 1% for the chapter practices. So you're down 6% now if you're in that situation. This would be a bad week to skip, as would every week moving forward. We have 3 chapter quizzes this time, so that's 6% right there. We have 3 chapter practices. I'm including technical guides as chapters when I refer to that. Those are mandatory; they're not optional. So there's 3 and 6 is 9%, and then we have a discussion, which has 2 questions and 1 discussion that I'm going to go over. That is worth 6%, so it's a 15% module this time. So yeah, I would suggest that the people that haven't got things moving yet start getting things moving, because it goes pretty fast, and you start knocking off. If you take the first 2 modules off, you're down 21%. You can't even get an A at that point. So this is a course that you should be aiming for an A. It is not a difficult course if you do the work required. Okay, so yeah, and I guess the related comment to all that is take some time and go through Blackboard. If this is your first time with an online course in Blackboard at Trent University, take the time to look at all those different links. There's a ton of information for you, starting with the syllabus, the Getting Started, which sort of introduces me and introduces the workshop leader, Jordan, to things like the syllabus, which tells you exactly what I'm going to do the whole term. So if you skip the syllabus, you're putting yourself at a big disadvantage because you won't understand what's happening. Then further down, course content. Every single module is laid out in exact detail. It tells you where the quizzes are. It tells you what is due, when it's due. So, I mean, this is not, there should be no mystery to this course. It's well laid out, and you can look ahead and plan your modules 2 weeks at a time, or you can plan the whole term because it's all laid out there. Okay. Going into, I'm switching pages here. Going into our discussion. So we're in module 2 now, and bear with me. The discussions are brand new to this module. So we'll have a discussion in each of modules 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there's 4 discussions total. They're worth 6% each. So that's 24% of your final mark. So pretty significant. Each discussion has 2 questions as part of it. So there's just one link to click on, excuse me, for the discussion. But when you open it, you will find that there are 2 questions. So I want to cover the expectations on the discussion and give some warnings about how to submit it. So there's 2 short answer questions per discussion topic. So they're going to be related. Each discussion is going to have a newspaper or some sort of media article. It's going to have a topic. It's going to be peripherally related to our course. It's not necessarily going to be content from the course. The idea is to expand the course offering to give you some perspective on things that are happening in real time. So they change from course to course, and depending on what sort of interesting stories come up, will inform what is being asked in the discussions. Both answers, so question 1 and question 2, should be 400 to 500 words long, not combined, 400 to 500 words long each. So your total submission should be 800 to 1,000 words, give or take. I am not the person that counts words, except that I will often put a comment saying more content and analysis is required. That'll be a short response or a response. It could be of the right length, but it's typically a short response. And it means you need to write more. You need to give me more information to work on. Okay. My suggested methodology for writing discussion questions is to draft them and then, maybe write 600, 700 words per each, and then cut them down to the best parts of that. Okay, that's how you're going to typically do the very best, unless you're an absolutely incredible writer, and that is rare. There are not many people that are that good at writing, and that's part of the reason that I include it in all my courses, that there's a writing component. So each answer is 400 to 500 words long, and people always ask if you include the reference list in that. I do not. But again, I'm not, if you hand me something that is 385 words long or 375 words long and it's well done and you're not being repetitive, you're not putting a lot of narration in it or whatever, that's going to be fine. I don't care that it's the amount of content and the density of content that I'm worried about. I try to give you the number of words that I think you should aim for to get to that point. Each answer, each of the 2 answers should have 3 cited references in APA format. So the biggest stumbling block on the course requirements quiz is for people to figure out how APA works. It's not that hard. I've provided the reference material to see it. You will be marked on using APA citations and references in your paper. So there's no title page required. There's not an overall APA format required. but I do want APA format citations and references. If you just list references at the end and you don't cite them in text, a lot of students don't know the difference between citations and references. If you do that, it's a 0 on that portion of the mark. You need to cite in your text. It will also probably impact your content mark, because if you don't support your arguments, it's hard for me to give you any credit for your arguments. Try not to use all the same references over again. If there's one duplicate, I don't think I'm going to be that excited about that. But if I see 3 references for question 1 and the same 3 for question 2, you're not going to get full credit for that. Expand your horizons. Look for additional information. Reference quality matters. And by the way, I'm just reading this. This is in the instructions. If you go into the assessments section and you clicked on, and I'm not suggesting you do this right now, you go into the discussions and you click on discussion 1, the instructions will pop up before you even begin. So I'm just going over that with you right now, so you can see what I'm talking about if you wish. I would suggest not hitting the begin button and just canceling back out of it when you're done with it. Reference quality matters, so try to use reputable sources. If your discussion is about Nike and the quality of their shoes, do not use the Nike website as a reference point saying how terrific their shoes are. Of course, Nike's a little bit prejudiced, a little bit, they're going to be promoting themselves, but that's not a good source for that sort of an argument. If you had to reference the Nike website to talk about the design process that they followed, that would be fine. But you should start, when possible, with peer-reviewed references, as you could find through something like Google Scholar. That's a great place, or through our library. So those are the very best kind. The very worst kind are blogs and all the garbage that's posted on the internet without any sort of sourcing or without any sort of scientific basis. Sometimes you're stuck with that, if it's a social issue that we're discussing, but try with the better quality. Don't use Wikipedia as a source, but do read the Wikipedia article if there's one that's pertinent, and look at where they've sourced their information from and use some of those sources. Go right to the source, in other words. Don't quote my office hours or my lectures. Go to the source. My lectures are from the textbook, so find it in the textbook. Just an aside, and I've seen a bit of this lately, students in their eagerness are starting to put page numbers and paragraph numbers and things like that beside their citations. That is not required unless you're using quotes. If you're doing a direct quote, then you need to do that. If you are just paraphrasing, you do not need to do that under APA format. Proofread your answers for grammar, punctuation, spelling, capitalization. There's a good portion of your mark that comes from appearance or polish, depending on what I call it, and I will drop a rubric for you. Make sure that use paragraphs. First of all, it's really difficult to read something that's just a big block of text, and then read through and make sure that you're spelling things correctly. Students seem to have a big problem using a semicolon. If you're going to use a semicolon, make sure you know how to use it properly. It's not a comma. It's not part of a list or anything like that. So it is 2 complete sentences separated by a semicolon. You should be able to replace that semicolon with a period and still be able to read the sentences and have them make sense. That's how semicolons work. Just something that I see all the time, every term. Avoid using first person. So first person is when we say I or we or he or they, those sorts of things. When you're making yourself part of the conversation. So if you say something like, in my opinion, that is first person. If you're asked for your opinion, state your opinion as a fact and support it with a citation. So if I'm asked, for instance, let's say, what is your opinion on Pierre Poilievre, the new leader of the Conservative Party? Then I wouldn't say, in my opinion, Pierre Poilievre is great. I would say Pierre Poilievre is great because blah, 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 and then a citation to support that. Okay. So that's what I'm talking about with not using first person. Use paragraphs. I see I've got a dangling sentence there. I'm not sure what happened there. I'll fix that. Avoid using direct quotes and instead paraphrase. This is another comment that I make. Some students think that the more quotes they can stuff in, the better it is. It's exactly the opposite. When you've only got 400 or 500 words, you should try to avoid using a direct quote at all, and maximum one. It becomes very hard to read if you are just going quote to quote to quote. And beyond that, it's very hard for me to mark content when all you're doing is quoting someone else's work. If you paraphrase it, then you're acknowledging the idea and you're putting it in your own words. I can see you've digested it. It's a lot easier to mark for content. Revise, revise, revise. I sort of talked about that already. So don't give me your first iteration. Lots of you will. It's very obvious when it's the first draft. You just won't get the same marks because you'll have undoubtedly punctuation, grammar, spelling, capitalization, errors, as well as, just mistakes. So do take a look over it and get it to be the best, most polished discussion you can. Due at 11:59 as per the schedule in the syllabus. That is going to always be the second Wednesday. The last Wednesday of the module is when it's going to be due. So it is 11:59 and Blackboard operates on 11:59:00. It will not accept a late submission. You will not be able to submit it late, and I won't take it by email or any other way. So the discussions will be closed at that 11:59 and they will not be reopened. If you have a draft in there, I'll mark whatever you have, no problem. But it's whatever's done at the time that it's due that is what you're going to be graded on. And just to hammer that home, one last point I put, no late submissions will be accepted. So the other thing I want to talk about very specifically is the limitations of Blackboard for this. So when you hit begin, it will open. There are several different topics that are available, and it will choose randomly one of those topics for you. So unfortunately, if I give you multiple iterations, if I let you, do a second or third attempt, what you're going to find is that it'll be a different topic. So that doesn't do anyone any good. So what you need to be very careful of is you can save it. You can hit begin and then it opens up, it tells you what your question is. You can save it, just don't submit it. Don't save and submit it, okay? So save your answers regularly so that there's a record in there, but don't submit until you're done. Once you've submitted, that's it. So I won't be able to give you an additional attempt at it. If you hit submit, that's what I'm marking, okay? It should auto submit at the very end in any case. But I mean, best for you to actually make sure that you hit submit before Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. If you are working out of Word, like if you prefer, once you've got your question, I mean, you should be able to leave the question open for long periods of time. It may at some point kick you out. So if you make any changes, that's fine. If you prefer to write your answer in Word, the problem is when you paste it back into Blackboard, it's going to butcher all your formatting. So my suggestion is go ahead, write it in Word if you want to, but when you paste it, do I believe it is Shift Control V instead of just Control V, and that will strip all the formatting out of it. The other way is to paste it into something like Notepad that strips all the formatting, and then copy and paste it out of that and put it into Blackboard, then reformat it in Blackboard to make sure all your paragraphs and everything is there. I can't emphasize it enough. Blackboard is absolutely brutal. If you take formatting and you paste something out of Word directly into Blackboard, you're not going to be happy with how it comes out. There is a preview button so you can see what it's going to look like before you do that final submission. But I would definitely do the Shift Control V. And when I was pasting it in, if I was working in Word, and it's always a good idea to keep a copy outside of Blackboard for your own records and everything else. So working in Word makes a lot of sense, but copy it and then paste it without any formatting and then reformat it once you're in Blackboard. I think that's all I got. Does anyone have any questions? Is there anything I can, oh, sorry, I see there. Will you be able to quote social media posts regarding social issues? Yeah, absolutely. You can definitely quote social media posts. Just don't give it a ton of credibility. I mean, it is what it is. Use it for what it is. It's some generally random person making a comment on social media. If that person is a doctor or purports to be a doctor, there's probably published works that say the same thing. If you look for it, I'm not against it. I'm just cautioning you. And it's a small case scenario here in our little discussions. At some point in your university career, you're going to have assignments that are, thousands of words long. And if you start using crappy sources for them or justifying points by what some fool said on Twitter, that's not going to go well for you probably. So yeah, I just want you to be cognizant of the quality of the source. And if it's appropriate for you to use that source, feel free. And that goes for anything. That can be YouTube videos, that can be any social media, anything at all. But if there's a better alternative, if I'm seeing published books and published peer-reviewed papers and things like that, those are really, really good quality sources. So anyone else have anything? Hopefully that answered that question. If not, give me a follow-up on it. Keep in mind too, as I'm repeating stuff that some of you that have been to many of these have already heard 3 times at this point. I am speaking to the people that are going to watch the recording of this. Unfortunately, I have no way of talking to the people that just don't bother. And that's probably at least half the class at this point that hasn't bothered to either attend or watch in office hours. And I guess that because of the questions I get, the email questions that I get about things that I've covered in office hours where I just respond, watch the office hours. So obviously you guys are here, you've heard everything I have to say, but that's not sort of across the class, unfortunately. Any questions, any concerns? Anything that anyone wants to talk to me about? I will, once we're done with the formal recording, I will turn the recording off. If you want to talk to me privately after that, I'm happy to do that and just not include it in the general recording, of course. If on the other hand, you're happy, you think that I've covered everything that you were concerned about, you're ready for the week. And I guess I should just go over, take a second, kind of go over the deliverables for this week, which are found under course content module 2. So we're looking, it's chapter 3, chapter 4, and tech guide 1 that we're covering. So that's what your practices, your quizzes are going to be about. And then in addition to that, of course, what we just talked about, discussion 1 is due this week. Sorry, this module, which is October 5th. So everything's due this module on October 5th. I'd suggest you work on it throughout the module as opposed to letting that go till Wednesday, October 5th and having to do 3 module practices, 3 quizzes, and 1 discussion with 2 400 or 500 word mini essays. So If, on the other hand, you're happy and everything's good with you, feel free to get on with your Sunday. Thank you very much for taking the time to come and spend here. I do appreciate it. If anyone's a Bills fan, go Bills go. I think the game started about 25 minutes ago. I won't get a chance to watch it, but if one of you can watch it for me, I would appreciate that. In any case, have a good Sunday, have a good balance of your weekend, and I will see you guys next Saturday again. Thank you.